How can a US fashion retailer generate $900 million in annual revenue and still end the year with a loss of $180 million? It sounds impossible, right? But this is exactly what happened to the popular brand Francesca's. Let's dive into the financial records to uncover the story behind these staggering numbers. In the fast-paced world of American retail, big revenue doesn't always mean big profits. Francesca's case is a perfect example of this. According to official filings with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the company pulled in roughly $900 million in revenue in 2019. On the surface, that sounds incredible. It suggests a thriving business with a loyal customer base and strong sales. But when you look closer at those same documents, a different story emerges. In that very same year, Francesca's reported a net loss of about $180 million. How does that happen? This massive gap between revenue and profit points to a serious problem in retail finance. Think of it this way. Revenue is the total amount of money coming in from sales, but profitability is what's left after you pay all the bills. For Francesca's, the costs of running the business were spiraling out of control. Expenses like store rent, employee salaries, shipping, and all the other operational costs were growing much faster than their sales could keep up with. When your expenses are higher than your income, even with $900 million in sales, you end up losing money. The numbers show a clear misalignment between the company's cost structure and its actual sales performance. It was like trying to fill a bucket with a massive hole in the bottom. As the financial pressure mounted, the management team at Francesca's had to make some tough decisions. The conversation shifted from how do we grow to how do we stop the bleeding and save the business. This is a critical turning point for any company facing a financial crisis. One of the most drastic steps they took was to massively shrink their physical presence. According to court records from their bankruptcy filing, Francesca's closed a huge number of their stores. They went from around 700 locations across the country down to about 450. That's a massive contraction, a strategic retreat from the aggressive expansion that once defined their brand. Think about what that means. A company's entire operation, its staffing, its supply chain, its internal processes is built to support a certain number of stores. When you suddenly slash nearly half of your locations, the old system just doesn't work efficiently anymore. Everything has to be reconfigured. Closing stores is a direct way to cut down on rent and other operating costs, but it is also a clear signal that the old business model just wasn't working at that scale anymore. While we don't know exactly which stores were closed, this move fundamentally changed the company's footprint. The impact of this restructuring went far beyond the balance sheet. It had a real human cost. According to data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the restructuring led to the elimination of approximately 3,000 retail jobs. That's 3,000 people whose lives were directly affected by these corporate decisions. This highlights a broader reality in the retail industry. When companies make big financial adjustments to survive, it often has a direct impact on employment and the local economies where those stores were located. From a purely financial standpoint, these moves were defensive. With a $180 million loss and a sprawling, expensive network of stores, cutting costs was absolutely necessary to slow down the rate at which they were losing money. But here's the key. Cutting expenses doesn't automatically make a company profitable again. It just stops the immediate bleeding. Based on the publicly available data, there's no clear evidence that these drastic measures led to a sustained return to profitability. So, it would be premature to say whether this was a successful turnaround in the long run. What it was, without a doubt, was a fight for survival. The story of Francesca's offers a powerful lesson for the entire U.S. retail sector. High revenue figures can be misleading. They don't guarantee financial health if a company's operating costs aren't carefully managed and aligned with what the market can actually support. At the same time, we see that the tough decisions required to save a business, like mass store closures, have significant social and economic consequences. In the end, this isn't just a simple story of success or failure. It is a fascinating case study in how quickly financial reality can force a business to change its entire strategy. The records paint a picture of a company shifting its focus from growth and expansion to pure survival, trying to find a delicate balance between financial stability and the real-world impact of its decisions. If you found this deep dive into the numbers and the story behind them useful, consider subscribing to the channel. We'll be bringing you more fact-based breakdowns of important financial and economic stories, just like this one. Thanks for watching.